Picked up a running gun down in Philly. It was a half day, booked basically overnight, no time to rent gear, and with a lot of requirements on delivery, like lens focal length, editor wants S-Log3, 24 frames a second, which I never shoot, a lot of specific questions for interview, and B-roll, and a very specific script for the end in taglines. So the kit I built here was for high-speed efficiency, and the producer requested only a single shot for the interview. A-cam's going to be my old school Sony a7S II. I've got both Sennheiser and Sony lav mics, and one shotgun in Sennheiser, a couple of tripods, a couple of stands. Needed to use some of these filters because the shot was fairly bright to get into S-Log settings, which starts at the S2 at 1600. You don't have a choice, you can't go lower. And I don't really need the big cart for this, it's just easier to navigate streets with all the grates and uneven breaks in concrete. The space was opened, well designed and well lit. The LED track lights are actually 55K, which balances really well with what's coming in from the windows, which is probably more like 6K because it's tinted. But we still have these overheads that are inside the ceiling, and those are more like 41K cool whites. So there is a shift. It's not as bad as it normally is, but it's there and you still have to deal with it to some extent. And the music was too loud to conduct interviews in this room, so we had to go to a back office, which was more like 4000K cool whites with 6K coming in from outside. And then the issue becomes my flapjack doesn't have enough power to balance out those windows, not even close. And if I use it by itself, the light's a little bit too hard. So I'm going to take a subtle approach of using the overheads at 41K, dialing that into my flapjack, and then letting the windows go blue and blow out. I'm just using what I need here to open up the shadows from the overheads, and it ends up looking like a really soft uniform fashion light, almost like a ring light, and that's perfect because this whole project is about the beauty industry. They're going to do all the editing here, so I'm just going right out of camera into Dropbox, but I do think it's beneficial to include some samples of what color balance, exposure, and contrast actually look like on location. To give them a guideline, I know they're in Premiere, I'm Final Cut, and so Final Cut users, this is the simplest way creating a color grade over the top of a basic in-program LUT. And I always shoot interviews with a 2-cam, but here's how I would lay out their single cam request on a timeline with B-roll.
So I always wanted to be a hairstylist, but everyone around me when I was in high school was going to college. So I thought that was the right thing to do. So I found myself enrolling in college, going and, getting a 4-year degree, graduated with a bachelor's, and I still had that feeling that I was missing something. I couldn't visualize myself in 10 years sitting at a desk, even though I'm sitting at a desk now. But I immediately enrolled in cosmetology school and I never looked back. The first day I walked into school, I realized this is where I was supposed to be.